What's up, everybody? This is me again, back with my second video on how to express interest in an Nphc organization. Now, for those who may be questioning, which is the right one for you, or is this organization fits me, or the people in the organization fit the kind of person that I am? This video is meant to help people do that. Now, I'm going to go over a few main topics to cover for anyone who may be interested in joining an Nphc organization, and how to properly express interest and with hopes of becoming a member eventually. Now, starting with the first point. The first point I want to address is to do your research. I cannot stress this enough because there have been so many people who wanted to join, whether it's my organization or any one of the Nphc, also known as the Divine Nine, that they just see the outside of it, the strolling, the step shows, the stroll offs, and etc. But when they approach people, they have no idea of what the organization stand for or any other type of pertinent information. So first thing is always do your research before you get involved in trying to express interest into any of these organizations or any chapters in your area. Now, for me, when I first started off as an interest for Alpha, it was kind of awkward because I'm very introverted, so I don't really get out too much. At least back then I didn't. But initially the first one I went to was back in Cleveland. I was expressing an interest to it, the Cleveland alumni chapter. When I remember the first thing I went to was a bowling event. Me and my homeboy back home, we went to go bowling to kind of get to know some of the brothers up there, and it was a good time. I actually wound up winning a trophy, a little team Alpha support, because I'm just a phenomenal bowler. I digress. Now, when it came to talking to them, I was very nervous because I didn't want to kind of be that guy that would just come up and say, "Hi, I'm interested in your organization. What I gotta do to join?" Which is, I get that it's very nerve-wracking to kind of approach one of us, but at the end of the day, we're people just like you. Only difference is we belong to a Greek letter organization, but we're still people at the end of the day that got regular lives, no different than you. We do regular things. We have families. We're students or doctors, nurses, whatever. So keep this in mind when you're approaching that. Just talk to us. We're not snobby, we're not stuck up, at least not most of us anyway. Which leads me to the second point, is the way to show support is by mainly attending events and getting to know us, so that way we can know who you are too. And by doing that, that kind of gives us an idea of our prospective members who may be wanting to join the organization, so we can have an idea of what you can bring to the organization itself. Me personally, at the time when I was expressing interest and getting everything together to become a member, getting the applications together, finding the letters of recommendation and the sponsor, and not to mention all the other things too, which I'll get to momentarily. The main thing was to kind of, when I said before, let them get to know me, let them know I was a student. I'm studying counseling and a little bit of background, but nothing too personally. If they don't ask for it, then just keep it to yourself. Because blind talks of 10 is unnecessary anyway. But what I mean by that is by letting them get to know the kind of person you are. What do you do outside of this that shows that you are committed to serving in these organizations? For example, it helps to do a lot of community service, or some noticeable community service, such as helping out at your church, volunteering at an animal shelter, or at an after-school mentoring program. That's always a good look. It's usually things you would be proud to put on your resume. Things that maybe you were someone's big brother or big sister, or you were a scout leader in the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, whatever it is. As long as it's promoting community service and it's showing that you're doing this for the right reasons, because at the end of the day, all the organizations in the Nphc are all for community service and giving back to our communities. So with that being said, the second point is be discreet. Now, when I say this, I mean do not go onto social media or go telling your family and friends, oh, I'm about to become an alpha, man. I met some, and they said like, they about to have fallen up in there like swimwear, Don't do that. The reason why it's important to be discreet is because it allows us to see like, can you be trusted with the information that you'll be given if you are selected to be a part of the line. Now, if you go around saying, telling people this, that, and the third, or if you go on social media posting about, oh, I'm about to become this or I'm about to be that, it kind of hurts your chances more than help them. Because, say for example, you don't make it by for whatever reason, people are going to be looking at you like, okay, I thought you was trying to do this, trying to pledge this, and what happened? And then you're just stuck looking like,
oh man, this didn't work out, man. This wasn't my cup of tea.
But it was. Keep things to yourself. If you're going to tell anybody, make sure it is someone who you trust with your life. You can confide in them without them going to anybody else. The next point I have is when it comes time to attend the informational, you want to dress accordingly. And like I said, make sure to wear a tie or a bow tie. You can wear a blazer, it's recommended, but sometimes may not be required, depending on the chapter or the organization that's holding the actual informational. When you go to these informationals, you want to make sure that you're prepared by, like I said before, making sure you've done your research, making sure you know all that you can learn from an interest perspective about the organization, such as when was it founded, who founded it, why they founded it, why are such things important to the organization or to the chapter itself. Make sure, just because you research a organization, don't forget to leave out the chapter as well. Because accordingly, when it comes to the information, I remember last informational that my chapter had, it had a guy show up in a tire, looked like he just got out the gym or something. Like, it just didn't seem like he was able to follow instructions, but which is a clear-cut example of why it is important to dress accordingly when it comes to attending informationals. Some require you to bring a resume because it gives an idea of what kind of work do you do outside of that, and kind of lets us know how committed you are to serving. Now, which also ties into what I said earlier about showing support. When attending events, that gives us an idea of who is actually willing to dedicate their time, their energy to coming to support us. It also gives us an idea they get familiar with faces, and also lets you become familiar with us as well. And like I said before, when it comes down to it, just because you may socialize with some members does not automatically guarantee entry into the organization. So take nothing for granted on this journey. If you are selected to become a member, make sure treat every day as if it's day one, because there's always going to be something for you to learn or to pick up. So the next point I want to bring to is save your money. Make sure these organizations are by no means cheap. So when you're trying to join an organization, you are going to be coming out of pocket heavy, because there's certain things that come with the cost of joining an organization, such as, you may offer a blazer, membership fees, regionals, any type of conferences we may have that's outside of the city that you're located in. There's also, that doesn't even count, the paraphernalia that you receive once you've crossed over. That's an expense in and of itself outside of that. But it is necessary to make sure you have enough saved. And depending on what level you are in college or if you're trying to join an alumni chapter, it becomes more and more expensive as you go up. For example, let's say for sophomores, it may cost $700-800 as an application. For a junior, it may be $950. For a senior, it might be $1250. For alumni, it might be $1450. So this is to give you an example. Depending on the organization you wish to join, or the chapter itself, you may want to do research on how much you will need to save up. So if it requires you, if you feel like putting in overtime at your job, or take a little side job, driving Uber or Lyft, you make a couple extra bucks, or when you get paid, put a couple $100 or $2 if you can to the side into savings, so those piggy banks. So when the time comes, you stack up enough and you have everything you need to get done. And also, I almost forgot, there's also application fees that come along with applying for your membership for these organizations. I know for Alpha, it's I believe it's $275 along with a $60 background check fee. And also, which brings me to another point, make sure keep your nose clean. I know a lot of orgs, if not all of them, if you have a felony on your record, then you are prohibited from joining an organization, because these are men and women who carry themselves with character. And it's not a good look if someone has a record trying to join the organization, because it looks bad on all of us. Because if you know how they say it only takes one bad apple to spoil the bunch, that same analogy applies to Greek life, which is why when you see us out, we're carrying ourselves with maturity and respect and self-respect at that. So the final point I wish to bring is to make sure you not only get to know the members, but also get to know the people who are also interested. This will come around the time of the information, because for all you know, you never know who you may be online with, and you're trying to join a brotherhood or a sisterhood. So it helps the process for you guys to go smoothly if you get to know each other beforehand. Now, it's not to say that you won't learn about your future LBs or potential LBs or LSs, but remember, it's about brotherhood and sisterhood. So not only are you going to be joining something where you'll be calling members who are already in the org as frat or soror, but you're also going to be going in usually with other people besides you, which is why it's important, because we look at each other as family, whether it's Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Kappa Alpha. At the end of the day, each of our organizations look at our members as a part of a huge worldwide family. So why it's important that we, make sure who we let into this family, because we don't just let any old person join. And there are some people who may have tried to get in, but they were rejected for one reason or another, which I'll discuss more in detail in my next video, which will cover the topic of perpetrating. Alright, so with that being said, make sure you do your research, show it to events, show support, give them a chance to get to know you, and give yourself a chance to get to know them. Know what you're talking about, because you never know, might be some of your members that might grill you for information, so make sure you know what you're talking about. And also, save your money and be discreet. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.